What's going on, my fellow A-plussers? It is I, your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new video as we're set to go ahead and finally get into the Mandalorian review for our finale for Season 3. That's right, guys. Chapter 24 is here, titled The Return, episode number 8, in other words. In other words, the season finale as we officially wrap up the third season of The Mandalorian. And man, I got to tell you, I had a blast with this episode. This was as intense as it comes. I mean, you want to talk about a proper build up to sort of the last two episodes of this season where like all the main action certainly takes place. This was just an intense sort of roller coaster, if you will, as we get the opportunity to follow several different characters in here and just see exactly the forces that they're definitely up against, and really the last hurrah for Mandalore. Yo, it was so great to see the Battle of Mandalore. This is definitely going to be a significant battle just sort of in the Star Wars timeline in general here, as the Mandalorians officially have taken back Mandalore. And so really great stuff, directed once again by Rick. I'm probably gonna butcher his name when I say this. Rick Famuyiwa, once again, continuing to show how valuable that he certainly is to the world of Star Wars. I've loved every sort of like episode that he's directed, honestly. I think Rick is actually getting even more involved in this production for The Mandalorian, as he's now an executive producer on the show, along with, I think he might have directed about maybe 3 episodes this season also. So he's definitely get his hands dirty. And again, you know, we've talked about this before. There's a ton of praise for Bryce Dallas Howard, right? A lot of people really love her episodes, me too. And there are a lot of people asking, hey, give this woman a movie, a Star Wars movie at some point in time. And look, I'll definitely shake the pom-poms and be a cheerleader for that too. But Rick Famuyiwa, give this man a Star Wars movie. Give this man a Star Wars movie. He clearly shows that not only can he do big climactic battles, great emotional moments also, but then if you need things to get a little bit quieter, Rick can do that too, as he can really direct any episode throughout the entire season of The Mandalorian. So 3 seasons in, I think Rick is doing some amazing work for Star Wars, and I really would like to see him get even more in the future. And I definitely would like to maybe even listen to more of his interviews, just to kind of see exactly how passionate he is about Star Wars, and what other opportunities might certainly arise for him. So I think Rick did a fantastic job here in the finale. The stakes were certainly high, and it just felt like a proper sort of wrapping up of not only just this season and people's sort of loose threads, but this feels like the wrapping up of literally 3 seasons worth of storytelling. You know, the idea and the concept of the dark saber was introduced to us early. You know, the idea of Bo-Katan's story, the idea of Mandalore being destroyed, right? We already kind of had that tease that maybe it was going to be Mando, you know, Din Djarin himself, that was going to bring Mandalore sort of back to its rightful place. So they've really have been carrying a lot of overall, you know, overarching stories for the past 3 seasons, and the way that this sort of wrapped up, it feels very much like the end of a chapter, if you will. And I was a really big fan of it. I mean, when you get to the point that Din Djarin and Grogu are literally sitting down just by a little pond and at a brand new house, sort of like that gunslinger from the Old West that's been through his adventures, hanging up his gun for sort of the last time, sitting back and kicking back at his, you know, cabin out in just the middle of the field sort of thing. Those are definitely the vibes that I wind up getting in here towards the very end of this particular episode. So it definitely felt like a very proper send-off, and as climactic as a way as you possibly can. Visually, I thought this episode was stunning. For me, I think some of the really cool visual shots was seeing Axe Wove from The Mandalorians, like 2 shots that I absolutely love. Him literally skyrocketing through the sky. I love that sort of GoPro perspective of his helmet as he's like cutting through the rain and the lightning and the clouds and stuff. Visually, it was really cool shot. I thought that was a great shot, what Axe Wolf was doing. And also, it kind of surprised me. I guess I didn't realize just how capable a Mandalorian suit is. You know, I don't know if they highlighted this in Clone Wars or maybe I missed it in Rebels. I don't know, but I had no idea that Mandalorians can literally go from the surface of the ground, and their suits are so, you know, I don't even know what the proper word is for it, but the suits literally allow them to go all the way through the different atmospheres, all the way out into space, literally into a force field, into the ship, and just dock themselves if they need to. Why they even need ships in the first place, who knows? But it gave me such like Rocketeer vibes seeing Axe Wove just cutting through the sky. It made me really want a Rocketeer series, honestly. Like, I really want Rocketeer to be revamped once again. Because I visually, I love getting an opportunity to see the Mandalorians using their rocket packs, especially in this episode when, everything is kind of settled down and the cavalry has certainly arrived. And now it's time to take the fight to Moff Gideon, like literally seeing the ships along with the Mandalorians flying through the sky, and then Bo-Katan taking out her sword, her dark saber for Mandalore. It was intense. I absolutely love seeing the barrage of Mandalorians coming in, and the troopers trying to go out. And again, just speaking of visuals, just the idea of the battle in the sky, I thought was just breathtaking in and of itself. I mean, it really highlights just how well trained the Mandalorians are in just all forms of combat. Whereas I definitely felt like they certainly had the advantage to the troopers. Because look, I'm sure these troopers probably train, but you're no Mandalorian, right? Like they feel very natural with their rocket packs and sort of being in the sky. And so just seeing Bo-Katan slashing down people, the armor with both her hammers just knocking people upside the head. I mean, it was just a really cool sort of aerial battle that wind up taking place. I mean, God, this episode blew me away when it comes to the action. Even getting the opportunity to see, again, going back to Axe Wove a little bit, the Imperial ship on fire coming down like a rocket, what's the word I'm looking for? I was gonna say like a rocket ship, but that's stuff like a fireball, if you will, just coming out of the sky. As I'm watching it get closer and closer to this crater, and I'm seeing these Mandalorians flying out, I'm just thinking, where's Bo? Where's Mando? Like, why are they still in here? Like, there's no way you guys are gonna survive this if you don't get out there. And then once the ship is in the cavern, I'm just like, I have no idea how this is going to end. So the fact that we get the opportunity to see Grogu save everybody's life, there's absolutely no way Moff Gideon survived that. I absolutely don't think so. Look, Beskar armor, that armor that Moff Gideon was wearing, extremely powerful, extremely tough, but I just don't think he's dealing with a case of fire up his ass. I just don't think that's I don't even think that's possible for him. The fact that you needed Grogu to kind of save that entire party in all of those flames just makes me think Moff Gideon's not coming back. But who knows? Crazier things have certainly happened. I think a lot of us thought Boba Fett was dead, right? But clearly that armor certainly survived a Sarlacc pit. I don't know if it's surviving a Imperial sort of ship destruction and huge fireball. I have no idea, but visually, absolutely stunning in here. And so again, we didn't really have too much in regards to like storyline for our characters to truly sink our teeth in, because this was very much sort of like that climactic event, that climactic battle that I think a lot of us were certainly looking for. And for people that were like, man, this season is kind of slow, there's not enough action for me, they saved the best literally for like the last 2 episodes in here. And so for me, I thought it rounded off the entire season extremely well, and also the first 3 seasons in general. So I think this was a really proper send-off for a lot of our characters. And if you ask me, it makes season 4 just feel that much more fresh, brand new. What kind of new, unique adventures are they certainly going to go on? It definitely has my attention, man. So I think they did a beautiful job in certainly wrapping this up. And I honestly, personally think for me, another solid and enjoyable season for The Mandalorian. I really do think that it continues to do well, despite maybe some of the ratings kind of falling off this particular season. But I think that's almost with any show that sticks around for so long. You're always going to certainly have people that drop off, or maybe just not feeling it anymore, sort of thing. But I don't think that this show has certainly dropped off. I definitely have had my issues with at least one of the episodes. Episode 6, I was just like, I really could do without this episode, guys. Like, I really didn't care for it. But other than that, I think they continue to put in solid and enjoyable entries, wrapped up with great finales. And I think that's all we can certainly ask for. I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni continue to do a remarkable job. And I definitely am going to be here for season 4. So I'm really looking forward to it, guys. And it's always one of those things where it's like, while we may have expectations for a certain character and where we think that their arc certainly might take them, those are just our expectations. We don't have no idea what the writers certainly might have in mind. The writers certainly may know the characters' behaviors a little bit better than we do. So, we may have expectations of where or what we want to see our characters do. But I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have done a great job of still keeping these characters true to themselves and telling the story that they want to tell. And for me, that's definitely rather impactful. And I continue to enjoy a lot of these characters that they have so far this season. Who we got in here? The Geek Ledger. What's up, Geek? Certainly good to see you in here, man. We got Marcelino. What's up, Marcelino? He's the Mandalorians going into space was never explored previously. Maybe some books and comics, but not in any cartoon or movie forms. Okay, well, I'm glad you clarified that for me, because the idea of seeing literally Axwolf go from the surface all the way up into space, I was like, his suit can do that. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. So yeah, man, pretty intense. Marcelino says maybe Moff Gideon returns, but it's a surviving clone with force powers. That's definitely a possibility. Homeboy was pretty pissed off that Din Djarin wind up destroying his clones. I thought those were going to be clones of, say, like Snoke, early versions of Snoke, possibly, that will eventually go on and turn into like Emperor Palpatine from Rise of Skywalker, whatever the case may be. But all those definitely seem to be clones of Moff Gideon that unfortunately felt that were unfortunately destroyed. He says, Marcelino says, this felt like a series finale. When season 4 comes, it'll probably be a soft reboot, or at least just a fresh start, right? I mean, we do see a lot of these characters with fresh starts. For instance, Bo-Katan, she is now the leader of Mandalore. She wind up lighting the Great Forge once again. People are getting really comfortable on Mandalore now. We got the armor that's literally like baptizing kids at the living waters now, which I think is pretty cool. It's just something really authentic and genuine about seeing the Mandalorians certainly back on their place, back on their planet. And I definitely fully expect when we come into season 4 that there's been more growth to that particular planet, right? Like we even get to see when Bo-Katan and the rest of the crew in this episode are trying to, gather their thoughts and, rest a little bit after they wind up escaping, they go to this garden that was planted by some of the survivors from the Great Purge. And I love the idea that they explore the concept that, look, life is still on this planet, right? Like it still wants to thrive and grow if you give it certainly the space that it definitely needs. So I can easily see the Mandalorians trying to clear out a bunch of space. We come back season 4, Mandalore's got some green, it's got some trees here and there kind of sprinkled in as they continue to go ahead and grow their planet. But it just feels rather fitting that the Mandalorians have now acquired their home planet once again. And it does make me wonder if they're going to kind of bounce back and forth to Navarro every once in a while, maybe pay Mando a little bit of a visit. But yeah, man, a lot of stuff for them to definitely continue to explore when it comes to season 4. And not only that, look, I mean, for Bo-Katan, like what did I put in my notes? Yeah, she lit the Great Forge and she has reclaimed Mandalore once again. For Din Djarin and Grogu, the ending, look, let me just say this. This was I don't want to say a very emotional episode for me, but it felt very proper, if that makes any sense. Like, I think we've always kind of seen them as father and son, the way that they act with each other, the bond that they continue to grow. So the fact that we get this episode here and they make it official, along with just the I don't want to say the nerves that I had going into this episode, but like little things of like the beginning of this episode when he literally looks at Grogu and says, we need to stop Moff Gideon. Like, this is going to be intense. I'm going to need you to be as brave as you possibly can. It just feels like something a father would say to their kid, like when they're going into a really difficult sort of situation. It really warmed my heart. But even getting an opportunity to see Grogu like nod in approval, I was like, oh, he's ready. He's ready for whatever is certainly to come. And even the moment when, again, Grogu stepping in to kind of save his dad. No, like to save him from the guards. I thought was another like heart-wrenching scene, especially when Grogu's like falling back behind the doors and stuff. Like my girlfriend audibly gasped. She was like, oh no. like we were both worried for Grogu there for a minute. But the guy is certainly more than capable of more than capable of taking care of himself. And I mentioned this in the previous review that we did. When it comes to IG-12, cool concept, but worthless. I mean, literally worthless, with the exception of helping Mando up and then maybe extinguishing him. Grogu in the suit really didn't do anything. Really didn't do anything. I mean, Homeboy really wasn't active until he literally flips out of the suit and is running on the light posts and stuff, and these guards can't, like, he's literally laughing at them. Like, he's laughing at these guards, and I'm just thinking to myself, why are you even stuck in this suit in the first place? Like, clearly you can move around so much better. And he showcases why. The beautiful partnership, the combo attacks, Din Djarin getting ready to get struck. You got Grogu stopping it, tossing guards to the side and stuff. I mean, man, they make a fabulous team. You got the music rousing as they're like fighting alongside each other and stuff. The only thing I was waiting for was like Grogu to get on his shoulders and we get like a Guardians of the Galaxy moment where they're spinning around and shooting things. Like, that's really all that was missing. But they did a remarkable job in here of just continuing to show not only the bond between these two, but just the growth and how much Grogu can certainly take care of himself. And so, when we get to the end of this episode and you wind up seeing Mando considering the idea of adopting him, I'm like, oh my God, is he really going to adopt them? You're just making my heart melt right now, bro. Like, really, again, I mentioned this before. As a father myself now, my son is like a year and a half now. Everything father-son relationship wise just pulls at me. I can't help it. It makes me teary-eyed a little bit. The idea that, look, Grogu's parents aren't around. He's seen what Grogu's capable of doing, no longer a foundling, more than capable of being an apprentice, and taking it upon himself. Like, look, if his parents can't give him permission, he's mine. He's mine now. And I loved him finally taking that stance because he loves the kid. He loves the kid. And the kid coming to save him also, it's just an extremely strong bond. And I'm really glad that they made it official as father and son, Din Djarin and Din Grogu. I think Din Grogu sounds much better than Sir Grogu after they knighted him in episode 6. So I'm kind of glad that it finally happened. If there was one question, though, that I had towards the end of this episode, did Grogu see or sense the mythosaur? Because I believe so. When he's standing on the step and he looks down and the camera shot sees him, his eyes get big and his ears move as he's looking into the water. I love the shot of like the camera just diving into the water and going around the rocks and seeing the mythosaur. To me, that kind of signifies that Grogu either senses it or he can see it under the water. And I think that's actually pretty cool. So it's kind of cool to see that. Look, what you saw, Bo-Katan, was not a myth. It is very much alive. So I thought that was actually really cool to kind of see. And now we find ourselves with Din Djarin and Grogu, father and son, sitting up their blasters and their IG robot units and calling it a day for a little bit before their next adventure. And I kind of dig the idea of him wanting to work alongside the New Republic. I kind of chuckled when this happened, when we get Din Djarin meeting Captain, what's his name? Tavon? I can't remember. Tevin, I think. When he goes to the New Republic base, he's talking to him a little bit. I dig the idea that he wants to take sort of that bounty hunter trade and turn it into helping the New Republic. Like, for some reason, I get vibes of like, hey guys, we couldn't do the Rangers of the New Republic series. We no longer have Cara Dune around, so let's just give that stuff to Din Djarin. Like, let's just make him a brand new marshal for the Outer Rim or something along those lines. So I kind of dig that he's kind of like this independent contractor now, that on case-by-case basis, if the New Republic needs anything on the outside of the Outer Rim, clearly the captain's not going to let them know, hey, I'm going to send the Mandalorian after these guys. But certainly sliding in like, hey, I need you to take care of these guys for me. I kind of dig that. I kind of dig that of like the Outer Rim Marshal, if you will, for the New Republic. So I am really fascinated to kind of see where he's at, where he's going to be at when it comes to season 4. And really the reason why he's doing that is because he does need new adventures to take Grogu on, and at the same time allow him to build up his knowledge. At least that's what the armorer says, right? Like now that he's your apprentice, you got to leave Mandalore. So he's clearly not going to be hanging around that planet for quite some time. He did his duty. He's out now. And the idea is you got to take your son or your apprentice on these adventures. So it should be pretty cool to kind of see what they get themselves into. Marcelino says Dave Filoni cameoed at the bar scene. I did see that. The dude with the cowboy hat, right? Because I remember looking, I was like, is that Dave? Because he always wears that classic cowboy hat, I feel like, wherever he goes. So it almost felt pretty interesting to be able to catch him in that episode. So I thought that was actually pretty neat, to say the least. So yeah, Din Djarin and Din Grogu's storyline officially wraps up, and I'm really happy to see where their story has ended for them both. And again, it definitely feels like season 4 is going to be, I wouldn't want to say so much as a reboot, but I like a reboot's like, oh, we're just going to go over this stuff all over again. No, this just feels like a renewal, maybe just a brand new starting, I guess in a sense, starting from the beginning to a certain extent. Let's see here. What else you guys are saying before we get onto our next topic here? Geek Ledger, he says, I've seen people getting mad about last week's episode title. I've seen all kinds of discourse about who the spy was. I've seen people say typical Disney with their plot holes. It's so disingenuous. Was that the title of the episode? Sometimes I don't even understand why people get mad at certain things anyway. Sometimes I don't even think it's certainly worth it. Marcelino says, I'm not sure if it was a good idea to make the Mandalorians go to space because it made them too OP. Rebels had an episode where the Empire built a machine that vaporized people, but the armor was okay. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, maybe the armor survives, but I definitely don't think Moff Gideon is definitely surviving out of that. But, I didn't mind the idea of the Mandalorians in space. They're not that invulnerable. It's just really the ability to kind of breathe in space, and if their suits are capable of doing that, then logistically it doesn't make it, it doesn't really bother me too much. That certainly makes sense. Let's see what else. Oh, I did want to talk about the battles, because I thought the battles were pretty interesting, that they wind up setting up, because again, we did have some pretty intense action in here. Din Djarin taking out the Mandalorian troopers, if you will, 2 at a time. I put in my notes, channeling his inner John Wick. I mean, there was so much gun fu in this. I was hella impressed. Like every time he went to like a different station, he would pick up a brand new weapon to go ahead and sort of utilize for the next group of people. Why he didn't keep just the shield and that taser, I don't know why. I feel like he did a pretty good job. Pretty quick, easy. The moment he throws the taser to the side and he picks up the gun, I'm just like, I don't know if that's a good choice, but Homeboy took him out. It just felt very, very John Wickish to me. There was just a lot of hand-to-hand combat in this episode that really surprised me. And so I was a big fan of seeing Din Djarin take out some of the troopers in here. I did also make mention of the Mandalorians fighting in the air. What were the other ones? Gideon versus Mando. Gideon was definitely OP. You want to talk about who was OP? Gideon was OP in here. I mean, he literally single-handedly took care of Din Djarin and Bo-Katan in their own right. The only thing that saves Din Djarin in here from Gideon is the arrival of Bo-Katan, and then he goes off to try and save his son from the guards. But I thought it was a really great sequence of action in regards to Gideon versus Mando. I also put Grogu versus the guards. Great teamwork and use of the Force. Pretty outstanding stuff. I'm not gonna lie though. Gideon versus Bo-Katan. I put in my notes, damn girl, you still can't beat him. Like, oh, that stings. That stings. Because this is literally the second time, had Moff Gideon truly survived, this would have been the second time that he would have been the owner of this Darksaber. One by forfeit and surrender, one by literally beating her on the battlefield. And I don't want to say that sits some type of way with me, but I almost feel for Bo-Katan in a particular way. Like, I don't think you go back to Mandalore celebrating. You know what I mean? Your dark saber is now destroyed. I'm sure they'll probably fix it. I got to imagine they try and fix it at least. But it's just not a good look, man. Like you literally just got the dark saber back facing off against Gideon, and Gideon whips that ass. And it's really hard to watch. And I was just thinking to myself, like, damn. I'm sure there's some people out there that are happy that she lost, but I felt really bad for her, and it does make me wonder how, if anybody will question her in season 4, or if she's just going to act like it's no big deal, or if that's something that Bo-Katan will harbor with her a little bit, knowing that Moff Gideon really did get the upper hand, and it really took a freaking Imperial ship to go ahead and take him out and be the one to take him down instead of her. So I'm definitely not going to give Bo-Katan that credit, but I will give Gideon that credit for beating her sort of fair and square. But great stuff here, man. Great stuff. I thought they did an incredible job. Everybody really got that opportunity to shine. Moff Gideon shows off what his purpose was, with the experiments, with the cloning. Very formidable foe. If you ask me, if it wasn't for the ship, I'm not even sure if Bo and Mando would have survived. So yeah, definitely put an ass whipping on everybody. Any quick honorable mentions that we have? Shout out to R5. The droid, for finding the courage to go ahead and help out Din in here, whether that be deactivating shields or finding the command center. So shout out to R5 for putting in some good work. And IG-11 is officially back. As I thought it was pretty cool that they managed to find another IG head at the New Republic base and utilize those parts to go ahead and bring back IG-11 as the new marshal, if you will, of Navarro. So very happy ending, man. Very happy ending. I think everybody certainly got what they asked for. And yeah, I'm really, really thrilled with this episode, to certainly say the least. Let's see here. Let's end off this episode review, though, with some of your comments. Because when Bo-Katan was asking for volunteers, 12 Mandalorians volunteered. The spies are the Mandalorians who went down to the surface of Mandalorian and scouted out the planet. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. That makes perfect sense to me. Marcelino says, I'm not mad that the Darksaber was destroyed, but I didn't like how it was treated. The way it was destroyed kind of felt like we have to get this out of the way, and not much emotional weight. I probably will disagree with that, Marcelino. Look, the battle itself I thought was pretty pivotal. It wasn't like she went one strike and he destroyed it, and then she had to find other ways. I mean, she really utilized that saber to try and take him down, and then until he had like his bow staff, if you will. So she did put up a very tough fight, and we did see plenty of the dark saber. But just that idea of like grabbing it with the hand, it's almost like a game of mercy. You know what I mean? Making somebody kneel down on their knees, like and then crushing it. Like for me, that's just a sense of power, like that's a sense of I own you type of mentality. So that's how I took it when he crushes it. So for me, it definitely had some weight, because I'm like, oh my God, is she really gonna get her ass kicked again? Like, did she really not defeat this dude? Like for me, that was the emotional weight. And I do wonder again, like I mentioned, if that emotional weight will carry over into season 4 for Bo-Katan, knowing that she wasn't able to take out Moff Gideon on her own, or maybe not. Maybe she's just like, look, I got Mandalorian back. I started the Great Forge. We're good. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I thought there was some emotional weight there. Marcin says, and after the battle, it's not brought up or acknowledged. I agree with you. Most important object in Mandalorian history, and everyone just goes about there like nothing happened. And that's one of the reasons why I think maybe it might get brought up again in season 4. Because you're right. I thought it was kind of odd that nobody kind of addressed it. But that, again, I'm assuming, if anything, maybe they carry that over to season 4. But that's just my speculation. Let's see here. Geek Ledger. I hope the return of the episodic storytelling of the first season means we can get future seasons out faster. Like 2 years between seasons is not ideal. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get 2 years in between this one. Season 4 is already written. At this point, it's just a matter of when are they gonna get in front of the cameras. That I don't know. When does Mandalorian season 4 start filming? I don't even know if they have an answer yet. A new report, this is from the Direct, new report from Making Star Wars offered fans the first indication of when they can expect season 4 to release. It says the hit series is set to start filming this October. with pre-production props and set hires currently being made. So it does look like they're going to get in front of the cameras in October. So I don't know if we're going to get 2 years, maybe a year. It just kind of depends on like the special effects and stuff. But season 4 is definitely written and ready to go. So yeah, guys. Overall, I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was a great round off, not only for the season, but for the first 3 chapters also. I feel like everybody's storyline really kind of got wrapped up successfully, right? Din Djarin found his living waters, helped bring back Mandalore. Found Grogu his people. Now Grogu is his people. Father and son officially now, as Grogu is in fact a Mandalorian apprentice. Bo-Katan at the head of the Mandalore finally. Mandalorians, reclaiming their land and their planet, sort of thing. Even Grief Karga, homeboy's got a planet of his own. They really did a fantastic job, I think, of wrapping up majority, I guess, of the loose ends. I'm pretty sure there might be maybe some loose ends out there that are certainly worth revisiting. But we'll see what the next threat is certainly going to be. And with Dave Filoni building towards a movie for a big climactic event that really kind of interconnects all these shows within this timeline, like Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Skeleton Crew, possibly. It is one of those things where I wonder how many more seasons of The Mandalorian will we get before we get to that event. If they're going 3 at a time, that might be interesting. Like, we got our first 3 out of the way. Let's do 3 more seasons, and maybe at the end of that 3rd season is when we wind up getting the film. Who knows? I don't think there's a release date yet or a projected date for the Dave Filoni movie release. So it should be interesting to kind of see how many more seasons of The Mandalorian that we get that will encompass sort of like the next chapter, if you will. So I'm kind of fascinated, and I'm really pleased. Again, so overall for this season in general, if anything, I think I'm probably going to do an overall season 3 review with you guys. And kind of talk a little bit about it more in detail overall. I'm going to try and bring in Stuart along with Will Polk from Scene and Nerd. It's something that we've kind of been talking about. We really want to get together for some Star Wars talk. So within the next week or 2, we'll try and see if we can get together and review The Mandalorian Season 3 as a whole and really give our grades to this season overall. But I think they've been continuing to do some really great, solid, and enjoyable entries for The Mandalorian. And I don't personally feel like it's fallen off like some people are certainly complaining. I definitely have really enjoyed it, to certainly say the least. But other than that, guys, I think that's going to do it for me here, man. If anything, we'll definitely see you guys later on this weekend for our Sunday episode of A+ Hero Report. We're always going to be trying to talk some Star Wars around here for you guys. So even though we don't have The Mandalorian for you guys next week, you can expect sometime a season 3 review, and we'll definitely keep you up to date with any other Star Wars projects that are in the works. But until then, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. May the Force be with you. This is the way. I'll talk to you later. Bye.